Hello again, Vinyl Community, Matt here, and today I am doing a contest submission video. This is for Jeff Kempin, who has just reached 100 subscribers, so many congratulations, Jeff. Very well deserved. And I don't usually do these videos, and it's not because I dislike the idea of contests. In fact, I've done one myself. I put one out last year. But it just seems that there are so many now that I find it hard to keep up and to keep track of everything. And but I decided to make an exception this time for a couple of reasons. So number one, it seemed that a lot of people that I subscribed to were entering this contest within like hours of it going up. Like half a dozen people that I subscribed to had already submitted their entries, and so if you can't beat them, join them, right? I thought I would kind of tag along. And number two, Jeff is a little bit of an unsung hero to me, unsung hero of the vinyl community, because he donated a turntable to a very good friend of mine, certainly one of my best VC friends, Amber Lee. It's Vinyl Victims Niece 86, so check out her channel as well as Jeff's channel. He donated the turntable in December, I think it was, and I mean really just such a super generous gift from obviously a super generous guy. So I know that Amber Lee really appreciated that, and sort of therefore by extension, if I can be so bold, I really appreciate that sentiment too. So let's get into the contest. Jeff wanted us to name 8 albums that were all released in a year ending in the number 8. So for example, 1958 or 98, 78, etc. My 8 albums are from from 3 different years. They're from 1968, 1978, and 1988. I had a little bit of a hard time finding many albums from either before or after that, or many albums that I own anyway. Jeff also said that the albums could be in any format. They didn't have to be vinyl, but for my submissions, these are all vinyl albums that I will be showing you. So let's start with 1968. Let's start from the beginning. And the Beatles White Album. This is my favorite Beatles album of all time. It's if not the most uneven album of theirs, it's certainly one of the most uneven album of theirs. I'm objectively speaking, Abbey Road is the most polished album, and I appreciate that, and I love Abbey Road. But the White Album has always been my favorite, because even though it has a couple of lows, Revolution number 9, I'm looking at you, to me it has some of the most soaring highs in terms of songwriting ability and kind of songwriting craft out of any of the Beatles albums. It has several of my favorite all-time Beatles tracks on it. Happiness is a Warm Gun, Helter Skelter, and obviously While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And also several other, what I would consider top-tier Beatles songs, like Revolution, Back in the USSR, and a few others. So, yeah, for me, this is just kind of my go-to album for the Beatles. If I was just going to throw a Beatles album on, there's a good chance it would be the White Album. So this copy is actually a numbered copy. It's not a very low number, so it's not like it's particularly rare or anything, but it's copy number 1235591. So 1,235,591. I don't know if you guys can see the number right here. If it'll focus, yeah, well, kind of. But there it is on the Apple label, of course. And I'm sorry for the glare. I have these still in their outer sleeves, but yeah, I mean, what a wonderful album. And now we come on to what is possibly my second favorite album of the 60s. It's one that I have shown before, but then again, I've shown the White Album before, so it's all good. And yes, even over most Beatles albums, I would rank this, and that is Simon & Garfunkel's Bookends. Again, obviously released in 1968, keeping with the spirit of the contest. This is an amazing album, especially on vinyl, and especially if you listen to it on vinyl wearing headphones. It's absolutely incredible. just the production values that went into this. And and Paul Simon's obviously a fabulous songwriter anyway. And this has some of my favorite Simon and Garfunkel songs on it. Mrs. Robinson, of course, great track. It's not among my absolute favorites of theirs, but still a great track. But Save the Life of My Child, which I think is a really underrated song, and America, which is really, yeah, one of probably my top 3 all-time favorite Simon and Garfunkel songs. It's just a fabulous track. We also have A Hazy Shade of Winter on here as well, which is another one of my favorites. And At the Zoo, great track, a quirky track. Maybe not one of their best, but I like it. But another one that I've always liked, which doesn't seem to get a lot of love, is Faking It. I just think it's such a well-written song. I don't know, for some reason it never seems to get mentioned. People always talk about Mrs. Robinson and Sounds of Silence and Bridge Over Troubled Water, but yeah, for me, Bookends is just not only is it Simon & Garfunkel's best album by a mile, I don't even think it's close, even though, well, Bridge Over Troubled Water is also a great album, but again, I think it's one of the best albums of the 60s, hands down. So those are my 2 1968 submissions. Now we're going to move on to 1978, which is where the majority of the records are. 4 of them I'm going to show are from 78. Let's start off with Queen, Jazz. I have quite a few Queen albums. I think this is one of their better ones. And it has 3 of their more famous songs on, one in particular. And yeah, obviously released in 78, as I mentioned. And this, in a way, it was kind of during their golden period, their golden pre-commercial period, before they kind of, I mean, they were pretty big in 78. They were, because Bohemian Rhapsody had already been a #1 hit by this point. I think was it the year before, 77? Oh, somebody can correct me. Whatever year Night at the Opera came out, I think it was 77. So they were no joke by this point. But this is still before they really became commercial in like the early 80s and exploded, and changed their sound a little bit to a more radio-friendly sound. So the 3 kind of most famous songs on here, probably A Bicycle Race, Bell Bottom Girls, and the most famous one would be Don't Stop Me Now. I'm pretty confident in saying that. And yeah, just I love the label too. It's really cool with the pink Jazz logo on it. So yeah, Queen, Jazz. That's my 3rd entry. My next entry, and I've deliberately tried to pick some albums that are a little out of left field, and the next entry is one of those albums. There's pretty much 3 albums that are maybe a little bit surprising. One is a soundtrack that we're about to see. We also have a live album and a compilation album that we're going to get to. But next up for 1978 is Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. Probably my favorite soundtrack of all time. If you've never heard it, it's absolutely incredible. It's kind of a tour de force of I guess in a way it's sort of prog rock. I don't know what else to put it under, but just an absolutely incredible album. Double LP set. I actually have this on CD as well, and I also have it on 8-track, which is a little bit on the rarer side on 8-track. But yeah, I had to have it on vinyl too. So I think I got this a couple of years ago, and I was going to see, a little bit of a quick story here. I was going to see the musical in London. This was almost 2 years ago. It was in March on my birthday, March of 2016. My wife and I flew to England. My family's still in England, and we were going to go with. It was supposed to be my wife and I, my mom and my brother, so 4 of us. Well, only 2 ended up going. That was my mom and my brother. No, we didn't miss our flight to England, although that did happen. I did miss a flight once, but anyway. No, my wife and I were so sick. We like got some bug on the plane, and it was terrible. That was the first time I had thrown up since I was 16 years old, and yeah, it was bad. So yeah, we were both kind of laid up in bed with stomach bugs, and I actually tried to go because like my wife came down with it first, and so I was like, oh, I'm still good. She's like, no, go, I'm fine. So I went on the train with my brother and my mom, and I felt rougher and rougher the closer we got to London, and we got to was it Waterloo Station or Victoria Station, one of the two, and I just said, I'm sorry. I said, I can't. I said, I'm gonna have to go back home. I felt so rough, so I spent like the next hour on the train trying to hold it together. For finally getting back to my parents' house and not holding it together. So, sorry if that was too much information, a bit TMI, but that's my little War of the Worlds story there. But yeah, please, if you haven't checked out the soundtrack, it's there's a good chance, even if you don't think you know it, you'll know it. You'll at least know the Eve of the War, the lead track. There's a fair chance you'll know Forever Autumn as well, which was released as a single by Justin Hayward in the 70s. And yeah, so War of the Worlds, 1978. Continuing 1978, we have Jerry Rafferty, City to City. This is a great album. Jerry Rafferty was really underrated in my opinion. Of course, he was lead singer of Stealers Wheel, but then ran into all kinds of legal problems with the record company and was not able to release his solo album. I think it took him somewhere around 3 years before he could release it, with all the legal wrangling that went on after the whole Stealers Wheel debacle. And but it was worth the wait. This is a great album. The most famous song, of course, is his most famous song, which is Baker Street. But it's not my favorite song on the album, even though it's up there. No, my favorite song on here is Right Down the Line, which I think is a sensational track. It's so 70s. It is dated, but it has a very a slightly unusual like chord sequence to it. It's and I say that just because I struggle to think of any other song to compare it to, at least from that era. And I've always liked that song. And yeah, it's another one of those records or another one of those albums that just sounds even better on vinyl. So yeah, Jerry Rafferty, City to City. Okay, final entry for 1978. This is another album that I've shown before, but I just love this album. Warren Zevon, Excitable Boy. Sorry for the delay. Sorry for the delay. Anyway. Warren Zevon he passed away around 15 years ago, was an incredibly talented songwriter who died far too young. I don't think he was even 60 when he died. He was like 58 or something, 59. And there were a couple of albums that were a little uneven in the early 80s in particular, but he was just a very unusual star. And his most famous song is on here, which is Werewolves of London. That was a big hit. Another one of those songs that if you think you don't know Warren Zevon, there's a fair chance you know the song Werewolves of London. But the title track, Excitable Boy, is wonderful. It's it's a kind of track that leaves you feeling a little bit dirty after you've listened to it, a little bit sleazy. It's like listening to some Prince songs or something. But I like that. I like songs that make you feel something, even if what you feel is a little bit unsettling. It's basically about a guy that kills a girl after he dates her. But anyway, and we also have the Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner on here, which is one of Warren Zevon's most famous tracks, his most beloved tracks, and I think I'm right in saying the last track he ever performed live. There was a David Letterman, and I always get these confused. The Tonight Show and the Late Show, Late Show, whatever. Somebody can correct me. I'm going to say the Tonight Show and probably be wrong, but David Letterman was a big friend of Warren Zevon's, and he did a 1 hour segment totally dedicated to Warren Zevon shortly before Warren died, like the year before he died, I think. And the final track that Warren performed on the show was Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner, and it's a sad show to watch. It is, because he knew he was dying. He had cancer. It was a form of lung cancer that he had, but still, it's worth watching. You can look it up on YouTube. I think that entire show is probably available online. But yeah, this is just a wonderful, I think one of the best albums of the 70s, actually. Warren has a very unique voice. It's quite a deep voice, and just a very distinct style to it. And I love the cover. Liked it. Funnily enough, I just listened to the comeback album, Fundamental Height, which was released in '87. So that didn't quite make the cut for this contest. And that's a really, really album. There's a couple of songs that I thought would play. I just listened to Dave for the phone, not the Sentimental Height, because that was speaking of best C friend. That was one Gregory Short gave me. He gave me a lot of sets days ago, and then so I took work today, and Ogman that Greg gave me a few weeks ago, and I was listening. So yeah, it's nice to be able to show a Warren Zevon album. Okay, last two albums are both 1980. We have one album and one compilation album. Let's start with the album. It's my shown before, and I'm gonna show it again. Pink Floyd, Sound of Thunder. If I am allowed to include albums in my list of Pink Floyd, this would be my Pink Floyd album time. It has my favorite version of The Numb on it. There's a debate that with James Griffin, over the last few months, because he had the studio, but then he said admit that he did back and read to the version of this album. It was better than Hero, so good. This has my favorite version of Comfortable. I think it's just Sentinel, the version that, and I love the art. I mean, look at that. It's just, Pink Floyd's artwork is always good. And I do have this on, let me think, on cassette as well, I think I do. But again, I know it's better. This is a sit press. I've shown this before, so I apologize it's boring, and I'm going to show it again real quick. So you've got the Viet Melody, I think it was, label there. The quality on this absolutely superb. You might think, really, on a Soviet Union print, but EMI actually took these tapes over to the UR in '98 to have press from those originals. So that's why the quality is so good. And they can get this version of this as well. I think the version was but the US version that is quite expensive. You can get a version for like $30 on eBay. I think I paid something for, but I'm pretty sure that's just been issued. I think it's reissued in last year. I think it was reissued. So we recommend pick up. And last but not least, compilation time. Now that's what I call music. 11 UK version. Now they're like geez, 98 I think UK. What the US 60 maybe, so these are quite a bit, but albums were first in 1983 in the UK, and this is the incarnation. This was released in early 88, either in March or April. That had to be when they released in the quarter of the year. And when people talk about favorite UK albums, this routine comes up as the best one, and I completely agree. It has such an eclectic mix of songs because it's all 1988. Actually, a couple of maybe a few tracks from the end of '87, but that's tip for an album. Of course, it's a compilation featuring songs that were during like the last months, so it extends to the '87. But so Pet Shop Boys on my mind. Well, here's give it. You can kind of see the thing right there. Move it over. There we go. I'll just read out my favorites. The Carlisle Head Place on Earth. I've always liked. We have a very good version of Canton, the live version of John. It's not. Valentine Powell, I think, really under rock song, but it really gets good. Side 3, but it gets 4 is absolutely incredible. House music. Side 4 is amazing. We have Bomb This Beat Disc, Cut, Dog House, Crush, the rest, Jack and the Jack That Built. I love that. The Beatmaster's House, Two Man Drum Machine, Armpit, I'm being pushed around, and climb should rise to the occasion. But it's like the version, like the upbeat version. Yeah, this is I don't know. I love the art too. It's back when they put a bit of effort into the artwork now albums, and I apologize for the fact that you're getting a laptop. Yeah, they used to put more effort into the covers, and now just a big 3 logo with in the background. Then after the round about 17, the last kind of classic designs. Up and down, they went all out, and a lot of interesting covers. So yeah, but, now that's my final submit for Jeff Kempin's songs, or 8 from albums. You guys know what? Long video. 8 albums end in there. Albums in a year. End of year 8. My God. What can I say? It's here. It's my excuse. That's what I'm going with. So congratulations again. Really just awesome. I thought they're pretty cool. You've only been videos like I think months. So and I spread you well over our subscribers, which I'm sure is not a result of this test, but just also of you know the great content and videos that you've got. So keep up the good, Jeff. Congratulations again, and you guys can link to Jeff's channel. I'll put a link to Lee's channel, to Greg's channel. I mentioned both of them, and well, I'll put it to James Griffin since I mentioned it in the video. So yeah, check the description below for links. Thanks as always for guys, and until next time, bye bye.